A couple of weeks ago, Assetto Corsa got a big update. The changes range from new heads-up display elements to updated tire models. Many things are different to how they were in 1.03. Some of these changes have been for better, but many others have been a clear step back. Due to certain problems with the update, I haven't put much time in the game since then, but I played it enough to understand what has changed and how. This video is going to address all the changes and also some stuff that remains the same, and I thought it was worth mentioning. The video is going to go like this. First, I'll list the positive changes, then I'll talk about the stuff that has not changed, and finally, I'll talk about the new problems and bugs the update has introduced. Let's get going. The best feature the update brings is the new heads-up display. First, the proximity indicators are gone. I found them really annoying, but some other people like them. The best idea would have been to give them a toggle button, but I'm still happy about the change. There's also the new element with information about the tires. We have 3 little numbers displaying the surface temperatures in the inside, middle and outside of the tire. These values change very fast depending on what you are doing. The surface overheats and cools down very easily, and the temperatures change a lot across the lap. We also have a bigger number in the center that displays the core temperature. This one is more stable and takes more time to get hot and cold. We have the color codes telling us visually what happens with the tire, and this part works like a charm. With a quick look, you get to see if you have a flat spot and if you are inside the correct temperature range. There's also a vertical bar showing the wear levels, and it changes color as it goes down too. I also spotted some positive signs with the AI. I am not entirely sure if I simply picked cars and trucks where the AI drives a bit better, or if it's an actual improvement from the update, but I got hit from behind far less often, and their pace seems to be reasonable in the races I did recently. There's also a new element with the pedal inputs. It was criminal they left this one out at release, but now it's finally available. Before changing subject, I want to reiterate how good the color element of the tire heads-up display is. Just have a look at the front right tire as I take a corner where it needs to do some serious effort. It isn't just something cosmetic. The difference in grip between lap 1 and lap 2 in the same turn is massive, and this element shows it really good. The other big positive change is the tire model update that brings the game in line with the PC version. I went to a combo I had more experience with to compare it properly, and the Lotus Exus was around 0.6 slower than before in qualifying trim. The car felt very similar in the high-speed corners, maybe even better than before, but in Sector 3 it didn't behave as good as it used to. I could not throw the car into the slow corners the same way. The car tolerates far less slip angle before it loses grip. You cannot get it loose at the rear and expect it to regrip by itself anymore. This is what happened the first hot lap I did with the new version. I was used to throw the car in there without any problem, and the slide was so surprising that I overcorrected a lot. You just cannot carry the same speed as before and crank a lot of steering lock. If you do it, the car won't cope with it. You'll have to correct, and you'll go wide if you go in too hot. The rest of Sector 3 also got more tricky, but that particular corner highlighted the changes better than the others. The difference was very noticeable there. We are talking about very small changes, but it's nice to get the same tire model the PC version uses. The small changes that I could notice in the cars I had decent mileage with also seem to make sense, so it's all around a good thing. Now, let's move on to the things that still need attention and were not improved in this patch. Many problematic areas have been left untouched. We have got really nice new heads-up display elements, but we still don't get a say on what is displayed and where. We still have to work with rigid presets that cannot be customized. If you want the new tire info on the screen, you have to cope with lots of useless clutter. The exact same problem is still happening with the control schemes. But we'll be back on this one later, because this is one aspect where the game has got worse with the update. We are still unable to modify the camera views too, and their quality changes a lot from car to car. Moving the seat around is a highly needed feature. The field of view setting is nice to have, but it's nowhere near enough. On the online side, we still don't have private lobbies. The default lobbies we get are still static and don't receive any attention. There's no way to do long races and the combos remain the same all the time. The presentation is still awful and the transition between sessions is rough, without even a screen showing the results in a detailed way. The track limits have not been worked on, and the penalty system is still giving absurd penalties without any sort of logic behind them. They haven't patched the exploit that allows players to get free pit stops, and that's as simple as graying out an option during the races. This should be very high priority. Even if they introduce private lobbies, the game is not going to be good for anything else than sprint races as long as this trick is not patched. The damage model is still the same, and there's no way to get a DNF through damage. The type of car you drive doesn't influence enough the kind of damage you get, and you still cannot save replays in online races. That is plenty of homework to do. As I mentioned before, we still have to choose between presets for the button layout, but after this update, these presets got much worse. The most obvious problem is that in many cases, one key is supposed to do two things, and if you ask, how do I cycle between both functions, answer is, you don't. If a car has hybrid systems and traction control, with a certain preset, you lose access to the traction control settings. That's a big problem in cars like the McLaren P1. There are enough keys to avoid this sort of situation, but with things like vote yes, look behind, or change camera taking space, it gets harder to make everything fit. The solution is really simple. Give the user the chance to customize all the layout for himself. That way, you let each driver discard all the stuff he doesn't want. Also, it's very rare to have cars that use all the stuff in the presets: KERS, DRS, hybrid system controls, adjustable turbo boost. If you know the car you are going to drive next, you can clear a big number of keys for that specific combo. In the end, copying the way Project Cars does this is the best way to go. As long as they insist in the preset idea, no one is going to be happy. There's also a problem with some keys being assigned but not doing anything. Right now the best example are the brake balance keys. This update also introduced this camera. It is supposed to be the car from the outside when you are on the pits. However, it can spawn in weird places, like inside a tire or behind a wall depending on the circuit. But it can get worse. You can be stuck in this camera and never be able to start the race. Let's see it happen. We are at Imola right now, ready to race this Corvette GT3, and no matter how many times we insist on clicking drive, nothing will happen. We get to control the throttle, but we are stuck here, and even if we restart the session, nothing will happen. The lights never go red, and we are stuck in the grid. Also, if you enter an online race at the correct time, you can get going before the rest of the pack. I've seen other people go with 30 seconds left. I've also been spawned in the grid with full control of the car, while everybody else waits for the lights. If you have been watching my videos for a while, you will know that one of my main gripes with racing games is the way you can downshift too fast. Assetto Corsa does a decent job at avoiding this exploit. In most cars, if you time a shift wrong, you will slide. Here I engage third gear while asking the rear a lot of effort, and it kicks out. You slide, you have to correct, and you lose time. However, this update has introduced a feature that makes downshifts not register if you do it too early. Now I'm not aggressive down the gears at all. You can see some normal driving from me, and I'm never making the engine scream down the gears. I don't get anywhere close to the rev limit. Still, this feature is making me miss many shifts. The worst part is that it's not predictable. Sometimes a very aggressive shift will still make it through, and later on some very conservative ones are not registered by the game. This is happening to me very often. The idea isn't bad, but it needs a lot of fine-tuning. The worst part of the update is a bug that gives you insane steering ratios for the car you drive. The wheel works okay in your first session with the game. From then on, the game keeps giving you crazy settings. You barely turn the wheel and you go straight to full lock. It's so bad that if you release the wheel in a straight line, the wheel shakes a bit in the center and the virtual car will go from full lock to full lock instantly. Thrustmaster users are able to change the wheel settings on the fly and bypass this bug. but other players are stuck with this. The game is unplayable when this happens. There's a hotfix announced for this issue, but we've been like this for 10 days and counting. And that's how Assetto Corsa plays on consoles right now. The next update can't come soon enough, because it takes infinite patience to try and play this game. As always, thanks for watching.